Oh yeah, we're doing this. You want to know something that really grinds my gears? Blind following, and boy oh boy is that nowhere more apparent than the F1 community. Hell, it's apparent in all fan and stan culture, but it affects my niche, so I'ma talk about it. Anyways, blind following is when fans of a certain person blindly follow them and see them as void of any and all wrongdoings. I mean, it's their favorite person ever. How on earth could they ever do something wrong? And it's quite annoying to see this, especially when said person has a massive following, since there is a large chance that if they do something wrong, they'll be cleared of it almost immediately because so many people simply choose not to believe the wrong thing they are accused of. So I thought up the idea. Given how you guys so positively reacted to the last time I did this, let's make it a central focal point of this video. Here are the worst things about every F1 driver. Now understand, almost all drivers on the grid are behind some sort of controversy, and if I really wanted to, I could just purely talk on that. However, I'm not. Instead, I'm just going to say what I think is the worst thing about every driver. Some controversies may be tied to it, some may not, but all I will say is do not just follow these rich men like they're deserving of worship. They're your favorite athlete, and it should stop right there. Do not go more than that. Anyways, I think the premise is simple enough to understand, so go join the Discord to burn bridges and subscribe if you're new if you'll wipe until it's red. So enough yapping, and let's get to quacking.
See those clouds up in the corner? That's where the rain is coming from.
By the way, because I value my sanity, I'm only going to talk about the drivers on the 2026 grid because I can never be asked to see what the worst thing about fucking Spiderweb is. So let's begin with the lower teams, and first up is everybody's favorite Finn, Valtteri Bottas. Now this one I feel is clear. The worst thing about Valtteri Bottas is that bro cannot defend for shit. The easiest driver to overtake on the grid has and always will be Valtteri, since he would see you in his mirrors and genuinely get out of the way instead of defend. I mean, it is infuriating at times, especially in the Mercedes days, since he is in one of the fastest cars ever, let alone on the grid. And whenever he was under threat by any driver, he just never fought. It was always disappointing and made him a very frustrating driver to watch half the time. I guess if drivers never see your rear end for long, may as well try something exotic to give them a reason. But now for the next Cadillac driver, and we have Checo Perez. This one is tough for me since Checo is my favorite driver. If there is something I love just as equally as Ferrari, it is Checo. However, for this one, I have his ego. Checo thinks of himself very highly, which is good. We all need self-confidence. But with Checo, he thinks he's better than he is. And don't get me wrong, he is good at F1, but he's no generational talent or even just highly successful driver. Yes, 6 wins is a lot and deserving of praise from everyone, but my guy, you are not a world champion. Red Bull didn't drop you because they wanted to. You were quite literally crippling the team. Yes, Liam and Yuki certainly were much better, but don't act like Red Bull should settle with a 5 out of 10 just because they had 2 1 out of 10s drive after you. But let's be real, chat. Sometimes it's really funny as hell. Moving swiftly then, we have the Audi boys beginning with Nico Hülkenberg. Now, if you were online, then you would know Nico has his ways with words regarding women. In the past, he has said some very questionable things regarding women in general, let alone in motorsport. He also is maybe sort of in tune with the whole alpha male thing, since a big reason why he left Force India was the fact that they were going to be pink for next year, and Nico's all like, nah, pink is for chicks, I'm too manly for that. I don't know, he is just very weird when it comes to things like masculinity and women. However, I will say this, in recent times he has made comments that are a total 180 on his past self, which I can only hope is an indication that he is not a dick anymore. I mean, he's also like half naked around Gabby all the time, so yeah, I think he's changed. But speak of the devil, Gabby Bortoleto, and I have no clue, to be honest. These rookies have only been in the spotlight for very little, so they either haven't slipped up yet or have been media trained since they came out the womb. So yeah, I really don't know what to say with Gabby. I guess his awareness on track could use some work given how he likes to crash here and there, but I'm sure with time this flaw can be ironed out just like it has for many in the past. Now for the Alpine boys, beginning with Pierre Gasly. Now this one is sort of hard since Gasly is just kind of a dumb goofball half the time, but that's just it. The guy is kind of dumb. From still getting his feelings hurt by Ocon refusing to build bridges over an incident as kids, to posting him skiing on Michael Schumacher's birthday, this guy's just kind of shallow, which yeah, is kind of hilarious sometimes, but it's also very annoying. This is a grown-ass man who refuses to be the bigger person often, or refuses to be somewhat serious. He really is annoying, which some people may see as a nice trait, but me personally, it gets talked to a point. However, one that may be easy to find out what their flaw is Franco Colapinto, who I'm sure we all know. Now, Franco seems like a stand-up guy. He's funny, he's charming, he's humble, he really is like a classic F1 driver, but we know what's up with him. He is Argentinian, which isn't bad itself, but means he has Argentinian fans, and yes, not all act like how #those act. In fact, most are not like that, but #those people still exist, and boy oh boy are they very loud. Harassment, rage baiting, racism, homophobia, the whole run on how to be a dickhead is embodied in #those fans, and unfortunately, Colapinto's presence brings them to F1. But hey, at least Franco doesn't act like Canapino does. Moving on to the Haas boys, and Esteban Ocon is literally just ghastly again. Ocon is a dumb guy who just can't look past an incident from God knows how long ago, and it's just a bit immature. Plus, Ocon does tend to victimize himself often, looking at Brazil 2018, and again, it's just a bit immature. Like, yeah, Max pushed you, that's a dick move, but then to act like you weren't at fault for what happened to him in the race, get real, buddy. Plus, there's the whole Alpine debacle from years back where again, he has a reason to be mad, but then he just exaggerates everything and makes things far worse for himself. However, he likes Spider-Man, so he gets a pass. Next up is Ollie Behrman, and again, he's a rookie, so there isn't much to say here. However, don't be surprised if he gets butthurt really easily. It's only been a year. However, I'm getting little inklings that maybe this guy can accept he's wrong sometimes and deflects blame often, but who knows? I won't say that for certain. But it's time for Aston Martin, and boy oh boy do I got a lot of things to say, so let's begin by saying Stroll is a billionaire. I actually don't know if Lance himself is a billionaire, but his father is, which is the only reason why he's on the grid. Plus, there is of course all of Lance's anger outbursts, like famously Qatar 2023 where he said fuck this engineer specifically, and all his other times in interviews where he deflects blame because Lance can do no wrong. Plus, there are all his extravagant trips to many places around the world, such as Israel and also Israel, just miles away from horrific war crimes. And somebody please get this guy off the fucking grid. Alright, now for Fernando Alonso, and to me, he suffers a bit for Franco Colapintoism in the sense of his presence in the sport invites really toxic fans, and hell, half of them are even from Spain, but he also really victimizes himself, starting with his fans, and in my opinion, they are the most toxic on the grid. His fans worship Fernando like a god. Fernando is the best driver to have ever raced in history, and whenever someone fucks him, they deserve death. Hell, even if they have nothing to do with Fernando, his fans will still act toxic around other drivers' fans, and it's like, bro, relax. All these people do is taint his image, considering Fernando is well liked on the grid, but not fully beloved, because Alonso also enables the fans' behavior by being really dumb about himself. Fernando is a lot like Lance in the sense of never expect accountability by them. British bias this, British bias that. Shut the hell up. Take accountability sometimes and recognize where you rank. For all the hate Lando gets for being a man of ifs, what about Fernando? All this guy talks about is ifs. If I had this, if I had that. Bro, you don't have it, period. Shut up about being unlucky or things like that. Like, yeah, you have been unlucky, but stop pretending that is the only thing stopping you from being a 2-time champion and like a 15-time world champion. You make mistakes too. Alright, now that dislikes and hate comments have been flooded into the video, let's move on to Racing Bulls, who will be much shorter than the Aston segment. Arvin Lundblad is the most rookie to have ever rookied on the grid, so he has nothing to speak on here. Perhaps his ego is already inflated to large proportions, but I don't know, the lad hasn't even done one race. And as for Liam, it's obviously his personality. Now, he seems like a funny, charming guy to be around with, but it's his racing mentality that is the issue. I mean, not here to make friends, remember that, people? His words often stab him in the back, so please, Liam, for everybody's sake, shut the hell up sometimes. Also, his girlfriend is a MAGA supporter, which doesn't really look good now when Liam does it. Let's move on to the Williams boys, and starting with Alex Albon. Outside of being tied to a massive fraud case courtesy of his mother, Albon does tend to be a bit rude sometimes. Whether it's rude to people just doing their jobs or rude to the team on the radio, he does tend to be a bit of a dick sometimes. Hey, I guess when they race you so hard, you ain't exactly gonna be happy often. Alex does also tend to just complain all the damn time and actively disobeys the team often as well. And hey, I'm all for it if he got the results to back it up. And Alex, yeah, maybe be a bit more humble going forward. And with Carlos Sainz, he really is just Alonso Jr. He victimizes himself often and has some toxic fans, however, nowhere near to the extent of Alonso himself, which is why I say Alonso Jr. Also, he's like really racist to Chinese people. I have no clue why. I guess he just doesn't understand normal culture. But now we have the Ferrari boys, and beginning with Charles, he's just a bit tone deaf. The guy doesn't really understand anything that's going on, whether it's spilling too much tea on the team or not understanding what the BLM movement movement is about. Charles is just rich if you think about it. He's extremely tone deaf and ends up angering a lot of people in and out of the team. Also, in regard to the BLM movement, he tweets saying that it was a Marxist anarchist movement that is seeking to replace people in favor of violence. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Charles? He's not racist. He's not Nick Fuentes maxing. He's just a tone deaf idiot, or in other words, too rich to give a fuck about anything. Yikes. And regarding Lewis Hamilton, this one breaks my heart. Yes, Lewis has had his controversy before, like tweeting out team information as a gotcha to Jensen Button, and also just caring too much about his image, but he got better. He became more humble. He started to stand for things. He was being such a good person. And I'm not saying he isn't anymore. He still speaks on things the other drivers wouldn't even dare speak on, let alone educate themselves on. But Lewis, why must he support AI? Now, who knows if he does, but tweeting out things like, hey Perplexity, what was the last skibbity toilet in 6-7 simulator? And Lewis, why? This is like his only flaw, dead ass, and it's really disappointing how big it really is. But hey, at least slander is funny. Now it's time for Red Bull, and Isaac Hadjar straight up has nothing to talk about here. He's a rookie, you know the deal by now. If there is one thing in his driving that is a flaw, however, I guess it would be his temperament, since his driving is really affected by his emotions, not in a good way, by the way. So we better hope that he is a happy camper in Red Bull, because if not, incoming Yuki Part 2, everybody. And with Max, well, this one is obvious. The guy just refuses to take accountability for anything, which sucks because other than that, he does seem like a nice guy. Yeah, he has his moments of anger, but they're always in the moment. He doesn't really stay mad for long. The way he speaks on 2021 really makes me respect him, since he recognizes that all of that was in the moment and now holds a lot of respect for Lewis and the season in general. But Max, take accountability once in a while. Just because you were potentially the greatest of all time, it doesn't excuse you shoving people off the road and being like, it's hard racing. People do the overtakes you do, if not more extreme, but don't crash or cause some sort of controversy. At this point, I'm sure it's on purpose by Max, but who ultimately knows? He also tends to victimize himself, since he swears British bias is out to get him like it's the 1800s again. Relax, bro. Your passport has very little to do with the decisions by the stewards. Unless Johnny Herbert is there, then maybe you were right. Time for the Mercedes boys, and Kimi, he could never do no wrong. Look at him. But George, however, he's like Max's nemesis for real. He takes immediate accountability, but in such a performative way that it still pisses me off. Plus, he likes to speak out on others, which on one hand, I can appreciate he is willing to speak up on the other drivers being dicks. On the other, no one likes a snitch or a guy with a loud mouth, and goddamn George, please shut up sometimes. He also denies any and all British bias and goes the further step by saying things like, people are idiotic for thinking that, and guys, tell me he's not Max's nemesis. Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, Luffy and Blackbeard, Goku and Vegeta, Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Doom, Batman and the Joker, Superman, Lex Luthor, Optimus Prime and Megatron, Max Verstappen, and George Russell. It just makes sense. Finally, the McLaren boys. Oscar Piastri is boring and has a tendency to refuse accountability, and Lando Norris has an ego larger than the Empire State. Finn. So what do we learn today, folks? Man, these drivers are either really insecure or really annoying. So those are the worst things about every single driver, in my opinion. Do not blindly follow. Anyways, I want to give a quick shout out to all members of the flock for their continued support. Make sure to join if you cool benefits as well as just helping me out. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, since it really helps me out. Make sure to let me know in the comments what you think of this. And as always, have an amazing day.
Good weather for the duck.